wanted to run some keywords by you as they relate to security managers before I jump right into your history. Uh, this will help me ask you better questions and write your resume in a manner that's relevant to hiring managers. I'm going to read out loud a list of keywords. Please stop me if something seems totally unfamiliar.
Okay.
Primary, uh, primary liaison with external parties, first point of contact, security awareness training, security and fraud prevention program, loss prevention techniques and resources,
Yes,
training
all of those
material.
apply.
Mhm. Sorry.
Yes. So it
Okay.
says, are you reading off the list that you also sent me?
No, this is a different list.
Okay.
Basically, it
Okay.
combines some of these
Okay.
keywords.
Okay. So yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead. So those are
Mhm.
accurate.
Right. Training material and support documents,
Yes.
cross-functional collaboration, security
Yes.
contact lists, a security environment for assets and personnel, emergency preparedness and response, regional security program management, identifying safety and security needs,
Yes.
supporting local security and safety crisis management team, security incident investigations, security upgrades, retrofits, and projects execution, access control system, corrective action plan, safety and security hurdles, workers' compensation program, point of contact for safety inspections, federal, state, local, and corporate safety compliance, disciplinary action logs, emergency evacuation drills, and system maintenance and operations. So this was the list of keywords, and you're familiar with all of them.
I am.
Okay. Right. So I'm going to go through your entire career history with you, beginning with the job you last held. So you're currently a security officer at Screen International Security Services, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you report? Who do you report to?
So I just recently changed my um, job description. So when I started at Screen, I was a
Mhm.
security supervisor,
Right.
and I managed a team of 15 officers.
Mhm.
Let's see. Shoot, you know what? Let me go back to my resume here.
Mhm.
Basically, everything that's on my resume, if that's going to be more accurately, that's basically what I did at Screen. I'm also
Right.
armed. I'm also armed, so I have a
Mhm.
weapon on me. I can be armed or not. That doesn't matter. I'm not sure if that's going to be relevant. I
Mhm.
do understand that some companies don't want you to be armed, but I
Right.
have the ability
Mhm.
to be armed if need be. I have all the
Mhm.
certifications for that.
Right.
Um, so going back to, let me see here. Give me one second. Going back to Screen. Let's see. Going back to Screen International. Um, yeah. So I went from a high profile client, basically, is one of the biggest directors of all time, and that it was going to be, so that would fall underneath of corporate security and
Mhm.
also personal security. So what they call executive protection. So
Right.
not only did I manage the facilities, and it was more than one facility. There were
Mhm.
basically estates and
Right.
corporate offices, but I managed the security, which would be camera access control, ins
Mhm.
and outs, visitors coming out. I also provided personal protection security, which is executive protection. So I'm not sure if that's
Mhm.
on there or not. Um, again, monitoring the camera, scheduling work hours for officers,
Mhm.
analyzing risk, and recommending security enhancements. I was assist in the budgets. I also wrote policy for security measures
Mhm.
there.
Right.
Um, I'm not sure if this needs to be done. I'm also an emergency medical technician, an EMT, so I'm
Mhm.
qualified as an EMT technician that has
Right.
basic life support, CPR, all that good stuff.
Mhm.
Um, Address product loss, right, for potential acts of violence. All everything encompasses that. It's all on the resume.
Right.
Um, Let me see. That's what I did there. I would investigate all incident reports. So there was a trespasser, there was an incident with an
Mhm.
employee. Um, I would receive any type of report that they would, and then I would write my own report and submit it to the vice president. So
Mhm.
um, I was the final overview of all the any investigation that happened or incident.
Right.
I would handle that. I reported directly to the vice president of the company.
Mhm. So, you mentioned that your uh, job title had changed from security supervisor. So, what's your
I did.
current role?
So now what I did was I took a role. I'm doing pretty much the same thing, everything
Mhm.
the same thing, but I just don't supervise anybody no more. So
Okay.
I'm still armed. I'm still armed. I work at uh right now I'm working at a corporate security, which is Fox Studios, and I'm an
Mhm.
armed security there. The difference is I do not have any response. I still have to do reports. I still have to do everything in there that's mentioned there, but I don't have any employees working under me anymore.
Right. Mhm.
So I'm getting paid more with less responsibility. I don't have to supervise anybody,
Mhm.
so it was
Right.
a no-brainer for that.
Mm.
But other than that, nothing's the same. I'm still, armed security officer.
Mhm. Right. Like, so, can you tell me like what kind of security budgets do you handle?
Projects.
Security budget.
Before I would, the budgets would be basically um, handling any any equipment that failed, as far as
Mhm.
we would be contracted for any security video,
Right.
computer systems, any software that had to be bought, in days in and outs of office equipment. I was somewhat involved in the budget of employees. So
Mhm.
basically,
Right.
scheduling hours for employees, or having to remove one, put another,
Mhm.
overtime, just general budget there.
Mhm. Right. Do you have some targets regarding safe security and safety that you have to meet? Like, is there a certain number of accidents that you have to lower, or thefts, or secure? Do you have to minimize security incidents?
Well, of course, yeah. So there's if you had basically an individual who fell or
Mhm.
hurt themselves, cut their finger or whatever, of course. So we would always try to keep that at zero. Fortunately,
Mhm.
we never had an on-site incident, so I never had to write an investigation. But that was part of being a supervisor there. So
Mhm.
any work-related injuries would fall under that.
Right. And you provided security protection for strategic and enterprise clients. So, besides uh, uh, a client and their estate, have you ever provided security protection for a facility or an enterprise?
Yes, that's what I'm doing now. So
Mhm.
that's what I'm doing now. I'm
Right.
providing corporate security for an enterprise right now, of course.
Mhm. Right. So in your resume, you mentioned that you were previously providing protection for a high profile client. So can you give an estimate on the client's importance? Like, were they known nationally, or how much value they had?
Absolutely. So one of the things that with the company that I work for, confidentiality is the utmost.
Mhm.
I would say that this individual has been responsible for every major movie since 1977.
Mhm.
Um, he's worth about $10 billion. He's probably the biggest movie
Mhm.
director producer of all mankind. He's known
Mhm.
worldwide. His name.
Right.
Um, so the thing is, I'm not at liberty to disclose his name, but
Mhm.
he is by far the biggest. Uh, if I can just say, do you watch any movies? Do you watch movies?
Yes.
Jurassic Park.
Right.
E.T. Jaws. You know where I'm
Mhm.
going with this now?
Yes.
Um, okay, so him and his family and all his everyone that comes over, I will provide
Mhm.
personal security for this individual and his
Mhm.
family. So yeah, he just without divulging anymore, he was the producer, creator of Jaws,
Mhm.
E.T., um, all the Jurassic Park movies. So
Right.
that's the individual who I worked with every day
Mhm.
and his family.
A very high profile client.
Very, very high, if not the
Mhm.
highest profile ever. There's no
Mhm.
doubt, no question.
Right. So, what action plans did you develop or implement to ensure the client's safety?
So basically, the action plans were already put in place by the
Mhm.
previous. What I did was I just improved and made it more
Mhm.
successful to run more streamlining. So we added more cameras, better views. We added. We were in the process of adding biometrics to the
Mhm.
in and out access log. I went from a analog platform basically, which would document by hand
Mhm.
individuals who were coming in and out, the times that they leave, come and so forth. I put it all in a digital format.
Mhm.
Um, so it would streamline the process for easier discovery,
Mhm.
basically. And then shared it on a cloud drive. So that means that all the managers and everyone
Mhm.
that was pertinent or important enough to see this information, I developed I'm not going to say it's with software, but I just developed that process. So
Mhm. Right.
rather than having to fax things over, rather than have to do the old way, I put it
Mhm.
in all digital form, and it was easy access for those who were allowed to see that. So with that, that was a really big step. Of course, adding cameras to different blind spots and areas. Um, the times and dates and times that individuals would leave because of paparazzi. We were
Mhm.
always on top, one step ahead of that.
Right. So, were there any security incidents when you were protecting these clients?
Did we have any security incidents? No,
Yes.
not directly. We were very
Mhm.
successful in keeping the client and the family safe.
Mhm.
So we were fortunate. However, we would have the typical paparazzi. We would have the typical individuals who were sometimes
Mhm.
attempting to breach. They never got a chance because we were one step ahead of them. Because we had
Mhm.
views and eyes in the front and in the back, so there was no way they were going to get on property or ever bother our client.
Mhm. Right. And you ensured their complete privacy.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And what was the reaction of the client on the security that you provided for him? Was he
The
satisfied with your performance?
the client was extremely satisfied. He was very comfortable in his environment because he had nothing to worry about, basically.
Mhm.
So
Right.
and that was and that was not only for the client but for the client's spouse and their family. They were
Mhm.
always reassured that they had the utmost protection and security and privacy.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. So I want, can you provide, like, besides this client, you also secured many other clients and facilities as well, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
So the organization that I work for not only provides for that individual, but many other high-profile clients. And what I mean
Mhm.
by that is I'm talking about A-listers in the movie industry.
Mhm. Right.
So on my off time or a day off or when they needed extra manpower, I would provide executive protection for other high-profile clients, and that
Mhm.
means we're we're basically a one-on-one. So now I'm very
Right.
very up close and personal with one-on-one clients, high profile. So
Mhm.
we would just as in general, again, I cannot disclose who it
Mhm.
was or who they were, but
Right.
I've worked. Let's just say I worked the Emmys. I
Mhm.
worked the SAG Award. These are big TV and movie premieres on TV.
Mhm.
If you see my profile picture, I'm actually at the SAG Awards there.
Mhm. Oh.
So we would actually escort uh, from A to B, from their vehicle to on stage, whatever the case would be. We would
Mhm.
personal escort for these A-listers, or in other cases we would pick them up and
Mhm.
drive them from wherever they need to be taken. So we're armed. We take them, and we protect them and their families. So it's also executive protection as well.
Right. Do you remember like how many clients did you provide security for?
I'm gonna say over a dozen,
Mm-hmm.
easily over a dozen, and that's basically gonna be with executive protection. Because if you really want to get technical, sir, where I was at, providing executive or without providing security, there were many movie stars or A-listers or talent as we call them that would come
Mm-hmm.
and visit. So they would fall under our umbrella of being having
Mm-hmm.
protected them, while they're on
Right.
property or off property. So
Mm-hmm.
let's just say I would say over a dozen. I provided over a dozen, not only one-on-one but in groups also setting.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's one, there's many. So we're there for them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you really want to get technical, when I worked the Emmys, there were more than 50 movie stars there, and all our
Mm-hmm.
job was to make sure that they were safe from fans and paparazzi. So it's
Right.
but I don't want to fabricate a number. You know what I'm saying? I was there
Right.
with them, but as far as
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one, I would say over a dozen, maybe 12.
Right. So, your act. So, like, can you provide details on how you protected the client and their property? Like, you did the same. You implemented the same action plans as for that high-profile client.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we were basically, if there was an event that was going to be done, we
Mm-hmm.
would do what we call a pass on. We would go and make sure. So just a general thing. So this is basically on a day. So let's just say the
Mm-hmm.
event is tomorrow. Okay. I would do a
Right.
walkthrough the day before or early on the day. And basically what that consists of is looking at emergency exits,
Mm-hmm.
um, looking at any avenues or streets of exit
Mm-hmm.
in an emergency, looking at the flow of traffic, looking at anywhere that they could pose a threat to our
Mm-hmm.
client. So I'd get there, I'd do a walkthrough, I'd look at the restrooms. I'm counting restrooms, I'm counting basically rooms, open areas,
Mm-hmm.
any place where there could be a threat or there could be a breach of security. So my job is to go in there and look at the exits, entry, what we call egress and egress, uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, exits, safety, fire extinguishers,
Right.
phones, anywhere where we're going to need any type of emergency medical assistance or the police. We would research the closest a precinct, which would be, LAPD, deputy sheriff, whatever's in the closest area.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all fall a part of a pre walkthrough to make sure when this client gets there, the client gets there, rolls up, gets out of the
Right.
vehicle, goes right inside, and then does he or she does their thing. Once they're done with their event, we get them back in the car and we're out. It's just a simple, quick in and out.
Mm-hmm.
During the event, most likely, we would either post, and there would be more than one of us, but
Mm-hmm.
we would be posting at doors, making sure credentials are correct. That's a big thing. Most of these events have credentials. You have to credential
Mm-hmm.
to get in. You
Right.
got a lot of imposters trying to get into these events. So we're checking credentials, we're checking names, we're cross referencing these credentials to the guest list. You know, so
Yes.
this is just an ongoing thing. So you're never really just there and just chilling out. You got to
Mm-hmm.
be on top
Right.
of your game. So I'm hopefully I just described what it entails and briefly, providing executive protection. You know,
Yes. And the clients were like happy with your performance, like with the
very
level of security provided.
very very happy. These are reoccurring. These individuals will call back on every time they have an event. They use our security company.
Mhm. And were these recurring clients refer other individuals as well? Like,
I'm sorry.
were you able to expand the client base through your excellent security performance?
Well, of course, that's basically um, what that entails is this: if you have a very very high profile client that's happy with the service that you
Mhm.
provided for them,
Right.
remember that they're a very tight knit group. So if they're happy with you, they're going to let other people know, hey, we're really happy with the security company, because these individuals sometimes they may go through different security individuals before they find the one that really suits them. So
Right.
yes, I would say absolutely 100 over 100. They are very happy. They refer to their colleagues or to their friends. You know.
Right. Do you remember uh, how many clients joined, uh, selected your company based on referrals?
That I couldn't tell you, sir, because that would be, I mean, when we get there and we do our job, they would actually just, their property manager or their agent
Right.
would basically call
Mhm.
directly to the president or vice president of the company. So we would be out of the loop on that one. I couldn't
Mhm.
give you an
Right.
accurate number, but I can tell you that our company is growing, obviously, because we
Mhm.
continue to get new clients all the time, especially for executive protection. And we get called
Right.
back to the same events every year. So hopefully that helps.
Mhm. Right. And you were also responsible for preventing loss, like product loss. Can you provide some examples? Can you provide some examples of the time you deployed loss prevention techniques to minimize product loss?
Well, yeah, I can start now on my current position.
Hmm.
Um, there's, right now as security, I'm mainly for, asset. I'm out not only for threat investigation, but for also asset protection. So
Hmm.
basically, it's a huge lot. There could be at any time thousands of people on this campus.
Hmm.
And what we do is we also monitor, do our patrol, we drive around, patrol whatever it be. We're just, there's not only their vehicles, there's props on the
Hmm.
lot. There's just so many things that could be taken. So we are the eyes and ears of that. So not only does
Right.
it include protection, but we're looking for asset protection as well. Going
Hmm.
back to being at the estate, also there were vendors. People would come in. You got to remember that some of these estates have millions and millions of dollars of paintings, artifacts,
Hmm.
whatever that they collect. And myself, was personally a big responsibility was making sure that if anytime there was an evacuation or anytime there was anything being moving, I was responsible for making that was documented correctly. The
Hmm.
individuals who were picking it up, taking it to get repaired, refurbished, whatever, and brought back, and it was the same stuff. So, from weapons to paintings to just, I would just say personal property that were of any value. That was responsible for making sure there was accurately there.
Hmm.
And again, we're not just talking, we're talking about millions of dollars of asset protection.
Right. And you secured all of these valuable assets
Correct.
successfully. So, how did
Yes, sir.
you identify some of the security risks?
The security risk is basically just a walkthrough. It's very
Hmm.
simple.
Right.
Um, you would stand there and think, you know, if I was a criminal, where and how would I breach?
Hmm.
You got to get in the mindset of and I've been a police officer for over 10 years.
Hmm.
You have to, and it's kind of weird, but you got to start having the mentality of what they think, how they would think, and how they would breach and what they would do.
Right.
So the simplest way is you kind of just do a walkthrough, and
Hmm.
you're looking for places you can breach, weak points in the fencing, um, where there's blind spots in the camera,
Hmm.
any point of not think something that's not really offers privacy.
Hmm.
So this is an ongoing thing. This is not just, hey, once you do it once. This is an
Right.
everyday thing where you walk around and you're just walking fence lines. You're
Hmm.
looking for areas of breaching, like unlocked doors,
Hmm.
uh, uh, faults in the fence system, faults in the infrared, because we also had infrared cameras and infrared beams. And
Hmm.
let me go ahead and explain what I was working with. That is, these IR beams or infrared beams that pick up heat, and also they're motion sensors. So if
Right.
anyone walks through a beam and trips it's going to alert our command post, and we have to get up and go investigate
Hmm.
that. Now, can an animal breach it? Can a bird? Absolutely. We get to
Hmm.
know our systems very well. But at nighttime, when it's very dark,
Hmm.
you got to realize that those are our eyes and ears for us when you're working
Mhm.
of a facility that's many acres, it encompasses that. So I guess
Mhm.
that's basically what we do is we walk around and we just kind of look around and see, hey, this is
Right.
something we need to fix. This is good. And these
Mhm.
are just basically walkthroughs. Piggybacking on that, we look at our current security system, our software, our hard drives, our
Mhm.
video cameras, and we're always constantly reevaluating that. Is that we need an upgrade? Are they good enough? Can we see? Are they functioning? So
Mhm.
anytime something goes down, we got to jump on top of that and get that fixed.
Right.
Power outages, all that stuff can contribute to a breach in security.
Mhm. Like, as you've previously mentioned, the an animal or some natural phenomena can trip up the security system, resulting in false, I think, positives.
Absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. Those it
Right.
happens quite often.
Mm.
Wind can blow a camera. Wind can. There's so many. Mother Nature can do wreak havoc.
Mm.
Rain, flooding. There's so many things. So when those times of nature, where even a wildfire,
Mhm.
can come and you have to evacuate you have to evacuate the assets and
Right.
stuff like that. So we have to be on top of it. So we have to always have an action plan in place. And
Mhm.
to simplify that, our action plan is something that I would constantly review quite often to
Mhm.
make sure that everything's set in place. Phone numbers, people to evacuate, horse trailers, whatever it is, moving trucks, manpower,
Mhm.
making sure that people are staffed properly. So if at any time there's an emergency, we can be responded and act within an hour or two and get everything done. And of course, remember, also human life takes precedence over everything. So
Right.
first and foremost, making sure that our people that are on property, where the security guards are family and
Mhm.
our primary clients, are taken care of first. And
Mhm.
making sure they're evacuated. One of the other
Right.
things about security is having a head count and an accurate um, documentation of who's on property at what time. If there's
Mhm.
a disaster event, we got to make sure that we know who's on property and who's not, where they might
Mhm.
be, so we can
Right.
either effect a rescue or get them off property. Because the last thing we want is now everyone's off property, but we think someone's on property. Now we have
Mhm.
fire and rescue going in after somebody, and it's not
Mhm.
necessary. So
Right.
it's very imperative that we have an accurate count of who is on property.
Mhm.
That is something that I
Right.
took very seriously. I need to
Mhm.
know who's on my lot.
Right. So, I wanted to know, like before you joined the company, what were the emergency action plans like? Uh, were they any different from what you described?
No, pretty much what I described earlier.
Mhm.
They had an action plan in place, and we just made it better. You know,
Like, so how did you improve these action plans?
by constantly upgrading, trying to upgrade equipment, getting better equipment in
Mhm.
there, software, cameras. Um, Training was a big deal. If someone new that was coming on to be a security guard, they're a security officer. This was something that we would constantly be upgrading our policy and procedures, what we call SOP,
Mhm.
standard operating procedures,
Right.
and making sure that everyone's trained and they understand the emergency protocols that are put in place. Because when an
Mhm.
emergency hits, people tend to freeze up. You got to be able to act. You
Mhm.
got to be able
Right.
to know what's on there instead of going to that list. So this was something that we would actually have them sign every day as they came in,
Mhm.
and they would read policy until they were comfortable with it. They would sign an initial saying, "Hey, I read the pass down. I read what's
Mhm.
going on. This was something that was implemented," and making sure that they're taking accountability for what they understood and knew.
Like, were there any instances when these emergency action plans, were implemented?
Yes, they were. However, I would be reluctant to put on my resume because of the confidentiality agreement I
Mhm.
signed. Um, uh, uh, last year there was the wildfires that were up and going, and
Mhm.
I spearheaded and led the team that evacuated horses, evacuated all their expensive artifacts, and make sure they were secured and
Mhm.
stored and
Right.
transported and escorted to a proper place. The thing is, I'm very reluctant that information gets out on my resume,
Mhm.
um, because the last thing I want is, because I signed a confidentiality agreement with my company.
Mhm.
And if I
Right.
divulge too much information,
Mhm.
it might upset them, and that's the last thing I want to do.
So
But
So I will not uh, particularly go into the specifics of this incident on your resume. I'll talk more about general cases like you developed action plans, emergency action plans, you improved upon them, and there was this big emergency that you handled and made sure that everyone was safe and the assets were safe. I will
Correct.
not go into
Correct.
specifics.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's just one of the things we're working with corporate security, or even more so with executive protection when it deals on with a high-profile
Mhm.
client. Confidentiality and privacy is one of the most of importance, because they don't.
Right.
That's one of the things they don't want breached. It's part of security. So our company takes that seriously, and that's, they take care of me. Unfortunately, the reason why I am asking to leave is I'm kind of stuck where I can't move up into a managerial position, and that's what I've been
Right.
seeking. You know,
Mhm.
compensation's really good. I like my hours, I like what I do, but I'm just, like I said, I'm targeting, what I've been trying to target is something like Warner Brothers, Amazon,
Mhm.
Netflix. Where I can actually use my skills and talent, and my experience at somewhere at a corporation like that.
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
it's really tough to get into like an Amazon, a Netflix,
Mhm.
Warner Brothers security. It's kind of tough getting into them. You need the algorithm to, on your resume, and I understand that, things are a lot
Mhm.
different than what they used to be. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm looking to start to move up into a managerial, director of security
Mhm.
type. And one of
Right.
the things that I lack is a bachelor's degree, because almost everyone says, hey, you need a bachelor's degree. And it's kind of frustrating,
Mhm.
because I don't think, this is just my opinion. Please
Mhm.
forgive me for saying this, but, I have, 25 years of experience doing what I do. I think
Right.
that, a bachelor's degree, or, I think, but I
Mhm.
understand things are different. So we got to roll with the punches. So
Mhm. Right. And in uh, some companies do substitute the experience, the bachelor, your education with uh, your experience level. Like if
yes,
you have 10 years experience in security, they'll accept it as well in lieu of a bachelor's degree, in place of a bachelor's degree.
yes, yes, they do.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right. You still there, sir? I didn't lose you, did I?
Yes. Yes. So you also test and review incident response plans, right?
Correct. Correct.
Uh-huh. So tell me, what conclusions did you come to after testing these incident response plans?
So a basic incident response can generalize anywhere from emergency response to police.
Mhm.
Um, can you be more specific to what you mean by response plans? Um, would it be for a natural disaster? Would it be for a breach in security,
Mhm.
or just in general?
Uh, let's uh, let's talk about breach in security.
Okay, so a breach in security, basically, we I would say, I'm just gonna start simplifying by saying, we're on private property.
Mhm.
So while being on private property is just like, we'll just take it as if you're in your own home. Someone comes on private property, things change as far as what the law will allow you and not allow you to
Mhm.
do. Let's just say that they haven't breached security, but they're outside loitering, or they're outside trying to look in.
Mhm.
We have video, we got eyes on what we call eyes, video cameras, so we can see them coming up and down the street. Anyone that's acting